Have you ever been knitting a cabled pattern and you stop and take a look at it and you notice one of your cables is crossed the wrong way? Or maybe you forgot to do a cable at all. Well, I'm going to show you how to fix that cable without ripping back all of your knitting. Now, the first time I did this method, it was very scary. I had a cable that involved 6 stitches. It wasn't just a plain cable, it was like a braided cable. It was rather complicated. And I had to drop down, I don't know, about 2 inches. But it was infinitely faster to drop down those 6 stitches involved in the cable and reknit it than it would have been to rip back the whole thing to where I made the mistake and reknit it. So the first time you do it, it can be a little bit scary, but I'm going to show you on this sock right here. And if you notice, I have one cable going this direction and when it's supposed to be going the other direction. So first, before you fix the cable and before you drop down your stitches, you need to know how to read your knitting. And you need to know 2 things. First, how many rounds are between your cable crosses? I like to call them resting rounds because to me, when I don't have to cable, that's a rest to me. Now you probably already know how many rounds you have between your cables. If you've been knitting your pattern and maybe you're familiar with it by now. But just in case you don't, what you can do is look at a cable. You should always look at a cable that's done correctly, just to make sure. And here you can see one cross. And then you're going to count the rows in between that cross and the next cross. So you see, let me get DPN so I can point to it better. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 resting rounds between your cable crosses. However, that does not mean that you crossed your cables on this round. You actually crossed your cables on the round above it. So even though it looks like a resting round, this round immediately above the cross, because when you're crossing your cables, you're crossing the stitches that are already on the needles and then you knit new ones on top of them. That's this round right here. So this is your cabling round, this first one. So that means you have your 4 resting rounds are actually here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This cross is actually your last resting round because this round that's on the needles right here is the round where you made the cable cross. And that is important for knowing how far to drop down and where you want to recross your cable if you crossed it the wrong way, or cross it if you forgot to cross it at all. So first, you're going to knit up to the cable that has the mistake in it. Okay, so the next 2 stitches are the cable that has the mistake in it. So you're going to be taking those 2 stitches off the needle. Now, I like to pull my other needles up just to make sure none of the other stitches come off. And now I am going to use my most used knitting tool, which is a DPN. This is a sock DPN. It's a size 1. It doesn't really matter as long as it's small enough to get into the cables. I like wooden DPNs because when you insert them into the stitches, they're not going to slide out very easily. And I like the 5-inch ones. These are 5-inch wooden DPNs that I bought at Knit Picks. I have several sets of them. And I always keep them around for picking up drop stitches or fixing stitches And you can just use it to help pull out these stitches of your cable, because you don't want to just rip it too fast with your fingers because you don't want to go too far. So remember, I said that the stitches above that cross are where you made your cable. So right there, this is the mistake. So when I pull out this last one right here, I'm going to get those 2 stitches that are crossed right now back on a needle. So there they are, they're free. Helps if you can orient them correctly on the needle, at least to start. There you have it. So on this cable, between these 2 cables, there's actually 2 resting rounds. So when you're dropping down, you want to make sure you still have those 2 resting rounds in between. Well, this is actually the second resting round, but you just want to make sure you have the same amount. So here was for this cable cross, it happened on this round. This is the first resting round, and the second resting round is on my needles. And this is the one that's going to get crossed on the next round. All right, so now this is down a little bit far. It's easier to do with just your knitting needles that you're actually using if your mistake is in the first 2 to 3 rounds. But when it's down a little far, it's nice to have this extra cable, because if I was trying to put them on the left-hand needle, it just pulls on it a lot and it's hard to see what you're doing. So that's why I like to have an extra needle. And if you have a second needle, that would actually make it even easier to reknit the stitches with. But you can use this right-hand needle and reknit the stitches that you need to do. Now, I do have a second needle here in the correct size because I'm knitting these socks on a size 3, and this DPN I'm using as a tool is just a size 1. Anyway, I will show you that in a minute. But now we're going to have to cross our stitches. So we're going to do it, we want the cable to lean to the right. Okay, now we're holding the stitches on the DPN. And just like when you're laddering up stitches, you're going to stretch the yarn out so you can find the correct strand to use. So I've already crossed the stitches, and then you can come down here, grab the yarn, and pull through. Now this may look a little bit complicated since I'm coming down here with this right-hand needle, but you can do it. And then you would pass the stitches back to this DPN, if you have a DPN to use. And then you're just going to ladder up these 2 stitches again. Now, if you have a crochet hook in the correct size, you can use that. You can use your right-hand needle. I'll show you that again. Now, when I'm laddering up, you'll notice that these stitches aren't sitting correctly. Normally, the leading leg is in front, but my leading legs are in the back right now, but that doesn't really matter. As long as you go into the leading leg, you can pull up that next strand on here. And I like to use this DPN just to sort of pull that stitch over, since there's not a lot of room on here. I'm going to show you using 2 DPNs And remember, this one is actually the correct size to form my stitches. If you have two of the correct size, that makes it even easier. But you can make do with what you have. Okay, so like I said, I am not going to bother. I could reseat these stitches like this, pass them back onto the left-hand needle, go into that front leg again, because the leading leg is in front, and then pick that up. But they're just going to end up like this again, with the leading leg in back. So I don't worry about it. I just do that while I ladder them back up. So I'm just going to keep on doing that. Now I'm in the section where there are 4 resting rounds. So I need to make sure I get 4 of these on the needle before I do my next cross. So here's that cross that I fixed. And all right, so we need to count, make sure we're doing it correctly. So this is the round I did the cross on, because there's a cross right there. So that's the round I did the cable. 1, 2, 3. We got to do one more resting round. And just however you can get it on there. Okay, so when it comes time to do the next cable, it does help to seat those stitches correctly, just because it's easier to see what you're doing. So I've done, this is the 4th resting round, so it means the next round I'll be doing that cable cross again. So I will slip them. All right, so now I'm going to do the cross. And I've got one more strand here to fix. And then when you're done, you will want to seat them correctly, actually. You can now put them back on your real left-hand needle. And then, let's see, looks like everything is ready to continue knitting. And there you have it. So all it takes is a little bit of learning how to read your knitting when it comes to cables, and a little bit of patience when you drop down to make sure that you work every strand slowly. Make sure you get the right one, because if you grab the wrong one when you're laddering back up, it can get a little confusing. So there you have it. Now it's all fixed, and it would have taken a lot longer if you ripped back the whole thing. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope you feel prepared to drop down your cable stitches and fix them if you ever need to.